trying to pick up a new skill or read a book without zoning out or actually remember what that podcast said, but your ADHD brain has other ideas. But there's good news. You don't have to force yourself into boring methods to learn and to focus that never really work anyway. Instead, let's lean into the chaos and use it to our advantage. Today, we're unlocking some unconventional and, dare I say, weird hacks to help you learn faster, smarter, and retain way more of what you learned. So here's an idea. ADHD brains process information differently in that we process everything. We have no mental filter running in the background that helps us focus on what's important in terms of prioritization at the current moment happening in real life. And although it can contribute to many a daily downfall for us ADHD brains, the fact that we process so much can be a hidden strength if we are willing to try some weird ways to harness it. That brings us to weird brain wrangling tip number 1, which is don't fight the wiggles. So remember when you were a kid and you struggled with hyperactivity during class and your teachers would tell you to be like, sit on your hands, or you don't get a chair this period? Nostalgia. Anyways, what I'm about to tell you kind of might blow your mind if you were one of those kids, and that is, it's totally okay to add in movement when you need to. Just take all those lessons on resisting and pushing back against hyperactivity from childhood and just toss them to the side. Because this is really joyful and it is so much better for you than like working with your ADHD brain instead of against it. So yes, add movement when you're doing deep work, especially like desk work, and you can do this in so many ways. A lot of people use fidget toys like squishies or tangles, and there are also things that are kind of like naturally fidget toys like scrunchies or jewelry, and sorry, there was stuff on my desk. And anything that adds a physical tactile sensation can help your mind focus when you have ADHD. Now, the next brain hack I have for you guys is audio immersion. This tip is definitely for music lovers or people who naturally seek out background music or soundscapes or just higher audio stimulation just to help focus. Sometimes it's the novel nature of background music that helps us focus, and at other times we can enhance our focus by just using specific sounds. There are specific ADHD-friendly tracks to help you focus, like here on YouTube. I really like the channel Mind Amend. They have ones just for ADHD and deep focus, as well as others. And other sounds to try while you focus are things like white noise or brown noise, which is like deeper white noise, or nature soundscapes are good. Sound effects that can help you regulate and stay more grounded are like things like slow clock ticking or like cafe soundscapes. And another thing is to experiment with the volume of the sounds too. Like turning it up or down can change its effect, and wearing headphones, earbuds, or using speaker can all have different effects. Brain wrangling tip number 3. By now, if you're on the ADHD side of the internet, you've probably heard of this next concept, which is called gamification. And that's the idea that people learn best when it's fun and interactive versus punishing or feeling like a chore. And the next tip is a way to work in gamification into a practical tool, and that is the memory palace. This is where we can tie new facts and learnings into a mental landscape or mental kind of like visual spaces. It can be something that really helps if you think visually or spatially, and if you're someone who can remember things like roads and navigation really easily compared to other people, this might be great for you. So tip number 4 is going to be another one where we're using the idea of gamification to make learning more engaging and interactive for us. And this one is competitive learning. So it may sound kind of intimidating, but remember that you can always just use competition against yourself, your past self, instead of another human different from you for accountability and progress making. And ways to do this are to do things like set mini deadlines, record personal best records, or timing yourself. Just any metric that you can measure, kind of like try to outdo yourself on those things. And they work because for me, it builds up a sense of intrinsic motivation. I know motivation is something that ADHDers can struggle with a lot. That's probably one of my biggest challenges. But this is really helpful because it not only builds that intrinsic motivation, but it builds a belief in your own abilities, which if you're an adult with ADHD, especially if you were late diagnosed, that can be something you really, really struggle with. So for tip number 5, and 6 actually, because the next 2 tips, we'll be harnessing the weird power of feelings and emotions as anchors to what you're trying to learn. So this works in a lot of situations because similarly to the Mind Palace idea from before, it gives you new ideas and concepts and anchor in your brain and connects it to things that you already know, or in this case, that you already feel. So tip number 5 is about emotional anchoring. This strategy will help you retain what you learn and foster passion and interest in subjects that may not at first seem like interesting or engaging, but they're important. This will help. Exaggerate concepts. You're going to make them dramatic, funny. You're going to tie them into something that makes you feel a strong emotion. Where I use this a lot is other people's journeys. When I emotionally relate to their struggles, it helps anchor and recall concepts that they used to succeed in their struggles. So by learning about them and having that kind of human emotional connection, I'm able to kind of learn from what they learned in their journey. Now moving on to our last tip, which is tip number 6, and this is called the storybook strategy. And in my research for this video, I never had heard of it called like this, but it is something that I've used in the past before, so I decided to include it, and it's going to help reinforce what we're trying to learn again and apply it in our lives by weaving the information and concepts into a story we tell ourselves. So if you're more like a whimsical person and you find like that bringing whimsy into your life really fun and joyful, you could be like, I'm not folding these clothes, I'm just bending them into special shapes. And like, you could be like, I'm not learning Excel, I'm learning to like build spells and formulas that power life's databases. I don't know. If you're not into whimsy as much, that's fine. You can do what I do, which is tell yourself a story about yourself, about your future self. So like, I'm trying to learn another language, and I tell myself that I'm a person who can speak the language fluently and well, and that I study the language every day, and I'm really disciplined, and I speak it and practice it a lot. And that's kind of like a literary type of visualization. So like this whole storytelling thing is like a literary type of visualization where you're telling yourself a story about who you want to be down to the very minute details, and you kind of bring that story to life. You kind of speak it into being, kind of remind yourself every day of the details of this story and kind of like build it up through your actions. And this can help ADHD brains specifically because sometimes we need to see or imagine, visualize our actions in the future to believe in ourselves and our ability to change and progress. So to recap, we took a look at these strategies, which were more than just study tips. They were brain-wrangling life hacks that turn our ADHD brains into an asset instead of a liability. These techniques help us grow as people, and for us with ADHD, it can help us build consistency and belief in our own abilities. So what do you think? What was your favorite tip from the video? Do you have specific ways you've used these ideas in the past? Or do you use different methods altogether? Let me know in the comments. I really want to hear from you guys. And remember, if you like this video, please support my channel by giving me a like, or if you loved the video, please subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.